Okay, yeah, thank you everyone for joining this tutorial. I'm so excited that you're all excited about documentation and want to learn about how to use Sphinx and restructured text to write documentation. My name is Mariatta. I live in Vancouver area in Canada. I'm an open source contributor and maintainer. I'm one of the Python core developers. That means if you're not familiar with the term Python core developer, it means I have the commit right to Python. So if you have pull request to Python, I can merge it. Basically. I'm also a public speaker and I usually give tutorials at PyCon. So this is my first time doing it virtually like this. So if I look unexperienced, because this is my first time doing Zoom-based tutorial. I thought I'll share, oh yes, I should share this link. I know I emailed this to you all earlier, but this is the material we'll go through today. Oh yes, there's a question if I've been at PyCon Berlin. I was there indeed in 2019. I thought I'll start by sharing what motivated me into giving this tutorial. When I first contributed to Python a few years ago, I asked Guido, like, how can I start contributing? And he said, just contribute to documentation, it's easy. My first ever documentation patch, I had to redo the same patch like 8 times. I thought, you know, I'm just writing text, that's documentation, right? But it's not just text, it's restructured text, it's Sphinx, all the tools I never used before. And I found it's hard. And I realized that it's one, even though people are saying documentation is easy way to contribute to open source, it's not that easy. And I really want to help people learn this so that you get new skills, you get to learn how to write documentation. You'll be able to contribute to open source projects by helping their documentation. Additionally, you can use this same tool for documentation in your own, personal project or at work. For example, at work, we are starting to adopt Sphinx as well as the technical documentation. It's not enough to use Google Docs. It's not enough to use a plain text README, but documentation like the Python documentation, it has been useful. So just want you all to learn how to use this tool. Additionally, maybe I'll go through a little bit of history. I'll start sharing my screen. If I could choose the right screen. Oh, yes, I should, before I go further, if you open this document, I'll orient you through the page. I have a rough agenda of how we will do this tutorial. I'm planning to do 45 minutes of a tutorial session, and then we'll break for 15 minutes. And then we'll come back at the hour and do another 45 minutes session and another 15 minutes break. And then that will be like a full, and then we'll have another half an hour. That will be 2.5 hours. We will go through the topic one by one from the top to the bottom till the end. And when you navigate this, there's always, so there is all the pages here. You can navigate next, and at the bottom that you will see the previous and next buttons. So if you ever get lost, you can find the right pages, and the link on the top left will take you back to the main page so you can navigate to the right sections. Okay, I will start with a little bit of introduction about documentation in open source community, and especially in the Python community. I have mentioned Sphinx and restructured text. And basically, if within the Python community itself, you'll probably hear these 3 terms a lot. Docutils, maybe, restructured text for sure, and Sphinx, you'll definitely hear it a lot. So I wanna just explain a little bit of the difference of what is restructured text, what is Sphinx. You probably hear them together at once. Now, restructured text is a markup language. It's, if you're familiar with things like HTML or Markdown, those are markup language. So you will be writing in certain text with certain formatting, and then it can get converted into something that your browser can view, like in HTML. Restructured text is very similar to that. You will have, it has certain way to format data, and then it can be rendered into HTML. Restructured text actually existed before Markdown. So back in 2002, the Python community saw a need of better way to format their documentation, their doc strings. So restructured text was adopted, and I believe it was restructured text. I recall reading somewhere like restructured text inspired Markdown to be created. So that's one of the reasons why we have been using restructured text, because it existed before. And at first, the proposal was simply to add restructured text to Python doc strings, but then we like it so much, we use it in everywhere else. So the official documentation, official Python documentation, if you go to docs.python.org, that whole thing was not handwritten in HTML. We use restructured text. Python PEPs, if you ever need to write, if you have a big idea for Python and want to write a PEP, you will need to write it in restructured text. And many other projects now adopted both Sphinx and restructured text as their documentation. I know that packaging also uses Sphinx and restructured text. Black, I wrote here, I think I wrote Black is using restructured text. I just learned yesterday, they just switched to something else. So this is outdated. I will fix it, but you will find many other Python libraries, they use Sphinx and restructured text. So that's that. DocUtils is basically is the engine that converts restructured text into HTML. It's basically a different package on its own. And not only it converts to HTML, it can convert it to XML and LaTeX. But I've mentioned this because this is DocUtils is what Sphinx use, but we will not use DocUtils on its own. I saw a few chats. I'm just making sure that there was no questions so far. If you have questions, feel free to just post in chat and I will try to go through them. So Sphinx, what is Sphinx? Sphinx is basically allows you to create documentation project. So DocUtils can convert a single restructured text file into HTML that renders nicely. Now Sphinx has additional features that can allows you to cross-link various different files and render them into a big documentation project. Just to illustrate this whole website with all the table of contents, with all the links, these are a result of using Sphinx. Like Sphinx can compile all of them and link them nicely. So I think, so I just want to share like how Sphinx and restructured text are connected to each other. So restructured text is the markup language and Sphinx is basically the engine that compiles all of them. So that's that. Any questions so far? No? Okay, I'm going to make sure I can see everybody. I see only a small group of people. Okay, I made my browser bigger. Okay, now that we have some understanding about it, I think we can all I want to let us all start. Let's write documentation. Let's write with Sphinx. So if you notice, there are code blocks in this throughout my presentation, my documentation. You can copy by clicking the little button up here on the corner, and then you can paste it in your text. So I have sent out instruction on how to set this up. Is there anyone who have not go through this, at least like creating the documentation directory and like installing the package? Okay, then I'm going to assume somebody was speaking.
Oh, no problem. That's all I was going to say.
Oh, okay, great. That's great. So I'll just demo it and you can follow along. I will give you all time to try it out on your own and try it out. Okay, let's go with this. So I assume you all, did I make it bigger? I assume you all did all the way until here that you have Sphinx installed. So I will show it to you now. Let's go up. I'm in the docs directory and I'm going to do Sphinx quick start. And it will ask you a few questions and make sure it says 354 instead of some other version. The reason is in the older version of Sphinx, you will be asked different questions. Like they ask you a whole bunch, like 10 different questions. In 354, you should only see four questions. I'm going to go with most of the default one, which is no here. And the name, I will say Mariatta's demo tutorial. Author name, you can put your own name, and this will be, this info is configurable later. So don't worry if you don't get it right the first time. The default ones and English. So now it's done. If you see, you will notice that that command Sphinx quick start will generate a whole bunch of files for you. And let's see. I will try to open up my text editor. So
Mariatta,
yeah.
Ray is just confirming something in the chat.
The docs should be inside the aquarium. So I've shown it. If you have cloned if you have your own code project, you will see my code are all in the inner my aquarium. That's my code. And then the docs is right under the aquarium, the root.
Are you we're still seeing the browser? Are we supposed to see something else?
Sorry, I'm trying to share my whole screen. Hold on. This is new to me as well, as I said. Okay, how do I share the whole screen?
I think there's another tab that says screens.
I did not see.
Or let me see if I can find it here. Yeah, you might just have to switch. For now, you might just have to switch to VS Code if we can do that. And then I'll ask because it might be an extra permission.
Okay, I see. Let me see if you all got this. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you for interrupting. I'm glad you did that. Can you see the font on the left correctly? I know it's small, but I also don't know how to make it bigger. Basically, if you clone my repo, the aquarium repo, you will initially see my aquarium inside. and I have created the docs right under the root. Is that clear enough? Did that help answer it? Okay. Now, if you have run the Sphinx quick start, you will see that it generated the build, static, the templates, the index, and the make, and a couple make file, and the conf file. So the conf file is the configuration file. I'm not gonna go through this, but I mentioned that you can rename your project name that you entered in the quick Sphinx quick start process. So you don't have to actually like delete everything and redo it. You go to conf file and adjust some text here. Okay, now if you have done that, okay, I want to see how I can have my console. Let's see if I can do this. Do you all see my, I open up like a terminal session in the bottom of the editor?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that's good. So I'm going to go
Pretty
to
good size.
and activate. No. Okay, so within the docs directory, now that I have started the Sphinx quick start, I can build the documentation by doing make HTML. Oh, sorry. Okay. Okay, it recognizes the end directory, which is something I dislike. Gosh, sorry, I need to figure out. So in here, in the conf, if I do .env, so I want Sphinx to ignore all of my virtual environment, and I believe this is, I believe that's the way to do it. Okay, so if you add exclude patterns and the path to your virtual env, now Sphinx knows not to look into files in there. So the documentation will now be built successfully, and you can see the result in the index HTML. So if you go to the build directory and the HTML, you will see index HTML. I'll try to show it to you. Open in browser. Can I open it here? All right, I guess I can open in here after all. So that's how it looks like. It has nothing because in my index RST, there's pretty much nothing there. So this is the default page that comes with it. Now you'll notice that to build the documentation, I had to do make HTML whenever, like I have to save the thing, make HTML, and then reload this page. Another way that makes it easier for you, I will not do it for here. If you have installed the Sphinx quick start, you can, I think I have the text here, hold on. I wanna copy paste because in my documentation that I shared, let's see, Sphinx extensions. I'll do it here. CD docs. So if you do Sphinx auto build and dot underscore build underscore slash HTML, this will automatically build documentation. So as I type things into my documentation, you will see it automatically tries to rebuild it so that you can open the browser on this URL and it will be automatically reloaded. Okay, somebody asked about the exclude patterns. Here you go. Okay, it looks like I might be able to share my entire screen. Now, let's see. I'm not seeing the option to share the entire screen. So I will stick with my pie chart. Okay. The last command. So the last command I did was I'm trying. Okay, let me go out of here. Sphinx auto build and do it within the docs or where yeah, you have to do this within the docs directory. So I've copied along with the docs, but you don't need the $sign. Just starting from the Sphinx auto build. Okay. I'll let you all try this and let me know if you've got this far, because the initial setup is the hardest one. After this, it's just about rebuilding or rerunning the make HTML again and again. So I'll give you time to complete this process. And just let me know if you need help or having trouble. Can you all like maybe the auto build? So there's a question in the chat. Do you want us to use the auto build or not? It's easier. It will help you having to manually type make HTML each time. So I leave it up to you. I'm used to just rerunning make HTML. I leave that up to you. I found that people found it easier if it's automatically built. But yeah. I'll wait 5 minutes, or if you all wanna just tell me you're done, then we can continue.
So we're just adding that statement to our conf.py file. Is that all we're doing?
Yeah, I just want to make sure you all can see your own documentation. Basically, being able to do either make HTML successfully and being able to see the output of your documentation.
Right. I didn't have the structured text add-on in my VS code, so I guess I got to install that to see it.
Yeah. If you have run Sphinx auto build or the make HTML command, you will see the output in the underscore build, and then underscore HTML and no
Oh,
underscore,
okay.
like build
Gotcha.
HTML, you will see index.html. That's the file you want to open.
Got it.
And you can open it in a browser, or yeah, you should be able to open it in the browser. Does that help? For
Yes,
those,
thank you. Understood.
for those who said that they could not find Sphinx auto build, it has to be installed to the virtual environment. If you have the virtual environment, you would install it by doing, I already have it installed. I'll try to make this taller. So if you have, can install it by doing pip install Sphinx auto build. And I believe that's in the documentation of my tutorial as well in the setup. I will try to copy it again to you, just to make sure you have the right version. So I got it. Well, I'll copy it like so. Pip install Sphinx auto build 2021. I'll copy this to the yes, so you need to pass Sphinx auto build and the dot, like to say that build it in this directory. That's the dot, the period. And then the next argument is the path to your build output, and that will be the underscore build / HTML. So you need, so it's not just the Sphinx auto build, but the whole command like that. So, and again, this is optional. If you're still having trouble, make HTML is what you really need. Like, it's just that whenever you make the change, you have to rerun make HTML again. So it's a manual work. So when you do make HTML, you will see it will come out in the underscore build / HTML. Okay. Alex said you were not able to find the HTML file. Do you see the HTML directory?
No.
Was the command said, like, did it say successful or was there errors?
There were no errors. So I have a bunch of directories, but I see an underscore build directory, but I don't see the HTML file. So maybe I did something else wrong. I don't want to bog people down too much, but.
What do you see under the build directory though?
It's empty.
Do you use make HTML or this auto build?
The what is it? Sphinx auto build?
Which do you, let me try it again. Like so. I will.
Can you show me your directories or in docs maybe? What does that look like?
My directory in docs.
Yeah, the docs directory, what's in there.
I see underscore build, underscore static, underscore templates, conf.py.
Right, I've got all that, but the build directory is empty. So maybe I
Okay.
put this in the wrong folder somehow.
So
See,
the Sphinx auto build. I'm trying it now. Okay, it looks like, yeah, it works for me. When I did Sphinx auto build, it generated the HTML for me. You can try make HTML, perhaps.
okay, don't let me slow everybody down. I'll try it.
Another thing to check, Alex, if you're inside the docs directory when you run the command. Is that a
Yeah, I was.
okay?
And I see all the aquarium stuff is there. So I'm not sure. I don't know what I did wrong, to be honest. It's okay.
Okay. Okay. Maybe I can help you during the break, but maybe
Yeah,
we
maybe.
can continue.
One other small thing, maybe if I can see, what is the directory that docs is in? It's my aquarium. What does my aquarium look like?
So I have two my aquarium. So the root one, that's where I have the license and readme, and the docs is in the same level as the license and readme.
Okay, I'm in a level below that. Maybe that's the problem. Could that be the problem? I'm in the second my aquarium.
Okay.
Well, you know, I don't know why I have it nested 3 times. I'm sorry. Just go on without
okay.
me.
Yeah, I can probably help you during the break.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Now, let me see what's next. Now that we have some text, maybe I'll show how it looks like once we start writing documentation. So if you find the index restructured index RST file, I will, hold on. I wanna clean up my view. So we can, so this is the root, the main landing page basically of your documentation. You can start by adding text there. I would put it down here. So okay, let me do the preview instead. You'll notice that okay, I don't want to show the preview because it doesn't have Sphinx. Let me open my browser. So you can see how the text is rendered in the documentation now. We can start adding new pages to the documentation. Now there is only one, and to do that, within the docs directory in the same level as the index.rst, you are free to start creating. You can start creating new pages, such as let's just say change log. Every documentation, every project needs a change log. Okay, I don't want the auto generation. So within the new restructured text file, the minimum thing you need is a title of that page. So I could start by adding a change log here. And once I created this file, I need to add it to the talk tree. So I need to add changelog. And indentation is important, just like in Python. Indentation in restructured text is important. So I can start doing HTML again. What happens here? Maybe I missed the indent. So like that. So the indentation, let me do it again. Oh, what's going on here? Did I make a typo? Browser. Okay. Oops. Sorry, did somebody have questions?
I was trying to help Hanu. She was saying that top tree. Okay, so it looks like it's working for Hanu now.
Okay.
Yeah, the PyCharm, she was saying the top tree, there's a non-directive type.
Yes. So
Yeah.
if you're just viewing in the preview of PyCharm, okay, maybe I should explain. As I said, Sphinx has additional features that are add on to the restructured text. So when you do the PyCharm preview, I believe it does not recognize talk tree because it's not part of the base restructured text feature. It's part of Sphinx. So if you have Sphinx, Sphinx will be able to understand what talk tree means. Or was the problem is not one that I have in the RST. It does not show my changes. Yes, actually, I'm also having trouble myself because I swear it worked when I tried this myself. Let me try to debug this. Why is it saying? So basically, it's complaining that there's an error when I built restructured text. It's saying it contains reference to non-existing document changelog, which exists. Or did I made a typo somewhere? So that's what I'm trying to figure out right now. Okay, let me try to debug.
There's a space in your string and the warning. See where it says changelog?
Uh-huh.
The string has a space. I wonder if that's the typo there. Maybe not, because the warning has the same structure.
That's what I'm saying. Like that. Okay. All right. Yes. Thank you for helping.
Yeah, I know my Python, but
Yeah, so that
figure it
really
out
was
later.
the indentation problem. And to be honest, even I messed this up. So it looks like I need just 2 spaces instead of 3. So when I have the 3 indentation there, I think that's 3 spaces. That's where it's complaining about change log. However, when I delete that and only have 2 spaces.
Hey, I've debugged it. At least I did something
Thank
right.
you. Pair programming, it works. And now it detects it. Now my change log appears. I'm going to try, I don't like that. So this is the actual, so on the right is the actual index HTML. You will see change log. There's a link to change log. I can now click it and it shows the content of change log. So if I do have some more text here, I'm just copy pasting text from somewhere. And if I do add another file like tutorial, say tutorial, another tutorial. Oh, I put it in the wrong place. It has to be in the same level as the changelog and tutorial. So when you add new file, you will need to add it to this talk tree. So whoops, indentation. So basically the file name of the restructured text without the RST, just the file name, and then we can do make HTML again. And now the rendered documentation has links to all those pages, and you can see it has now the text. So that's the first steps in building Sphinx. The next section, I want to show you just even more features of restructured text and Sphinx, but now is the time for a break. So let's take 15 minutes break. Grab some water, bathroom, anything. We'll come back in 15 minutes, or I guess 13 minutes. So thank you. And if you still have questions or have troubles, feel free to message me. I will try to get back to you. All right, it's 1 o'clock. Well, at least where I am, it's 1 o'clock. There was question about the spaces, and gosh, I should change. Yes, so the trick is that I guess we don't actually see the spaces here. The file name titles, changelog tutorial, needs to be in the same level as these two rows.
I think you're not sharing your screen. Just
oh, sorry, I stopped it and I forgot. Sorry,
I've done that myself.
I know. it's very awkward to do this virtually like this. Did I share the right screen?
Yep.
Yeah,
think so.
okay. You see my pie chart with the
Yep,
RST, right?
Yep.
So the changelog and the tutorial has to be in the same level as these two, the max depth and the caption. If you have two spaces here, so 1, 2, the rest has to follow like that. So this, you need 2 spaces here. So just to show this works. What did I do? I did something wrong again. Right. I have 3 here. Did something wrong again. What did I do? Mess things up. Okay. All right. It looks like I cannot have empty lines like this. Like I mistakenly added it. So no empty lines between the top 3 and the max depth. And the indentation has to match. So Python and empty spaces. Okay, so let's go to the next section. I hope everybody get this, at least they can see their documentation. So next, let's go through several features of restructured text so we know how to better format our documentation. And the page we will look at is the RST intro HTML page. I just texted in chat. So perhaps I'll just show. I will use the changelog because it's currently empty. The different ways to render headings or like section titles is by adding underlines to the text that you want to make headings. So if you're familiar with Markdown, you're used to put a pound in front, like this becomes a title like that. But in restructured text, you do it with underlines like that, and it has to match. So here's the rendering of it. It has to match the length of your title. If you want to have multiple levels, say you want to have the heading level 1 and then a subheading. So for example, here's the paragraph. And then you want to have a section subheading. You need to choose a different underline style. It can be say an equal sign. So Sphinx or restructured text is smart enough to detect the first section style, like the first underline style that it sees at the top of the page will be the first heading style. So the next underline style it sees will be the subheadings. So you can see that this is now like looks smaller than the other one, and then you can go into even deeper. So subheading text, and then here is the say subheading. I don't know what you call it, but you have to choose a different styling. Like I've seen in Python, we use this kind of styling. Now it looks smaller. You can also do a line above it. It will work too. but the underline definitely is needed. So even if you change your style, say you want to start with the equal sign, that's totally fine too. Like, just make sure you choose a different style next time. Next, how do we render links? So the links is a little bit, it looks longer than the markdown part. It has two parts. So the text that you want the link to display, I have copied the text here, and you will see in the documentation I shared, you can copy it too. So Python docs, so you need the backticks, underscore, and then the actual links is wrapped in the angle braces. I don't know how this called, like this, it's not square bracket, angle braces, I think. You will see that that's how it gets rendered. And the space here is important. Again, if you miss the space, it doesn't get rendered correctly. So you need a space. So that's the title and the link. Another way to do links in the restructured text, say if you will be saying, if you will be referencing the same link again and again, you don't have to keep copy pasting the same link like this. You can create something called like a bookmark, like you can label it. So the way to do that is in the bottom. I usually do this in the bottom of my entire documentation. So if I have a whole bunch of text, I want to say, I want to reference to docspython.org multiple times. I would do it like this, underscore Python docs, colon, and the link to it. So now I only need to say Python docs underscore, like that. This link will be rendered when we build the documentation. This will be rendered and it will link to the docspython.org. And so I don't have to type the same markup multiple times. Spacing. So it makes things simpler. There's a question about, can you add comments? Yes, so you will see that in the same documentation, comment is basically 2 dots. This is a comment like that. So now it doesn't get rendered on the site. You can make things bold by doing star. I think this is the same syntax as Markdown, like star. Italics is just 1 asterisk. So that's the star and just 1 star. What else? Code blocks. So inline codes, for example, I want to say mark restructured text as, codes within the sentence, within the paragraph. We need 2 backticks to wrap both. It's not, I know that in Markdown you need 1, I believe, like just single backticks. In restructured text, you need 2. There is a question about, can I define Python docs once? I have found I have to redefine it multiple times in each page. I'm not sure if the more recent Sphinx handles it better. I know that in Python documentation, docspython.org, we repeat this wherever it needs to be rendered. So my answer right now is yes, you need to redefine that link again in the next page. Okay, what else? So I've shown how to format certain text. What about code blocks? Say you have, there are a few ways to render code blocks. So the first one is simply by adding like 2 columns like this, followed by an empty line. The empty line is important, and then indent your text. This is a code block. So you can see that immediately it looks like another line of the block. Like it appears as literal blocks. There is no formatting, the spacing is intact. So that's how you can, that's one way to render like text blocks like this. So 2 columns and an empty space. So that empty space is important, otherwise it don't show up. Another way is that you can add these 2 columns at the end of a sentence. Say you have a paragraph. Actually, I will use this paragraph as the example, the previous example. So for example, like the 2 columns there instead of 1, and that is recognized by reStructuredText as well. And you notice when it gets rendered, Sphinx, reStructuredText is smart enough to put just the one single column. The like it says, for example. However, if you put it at the next line here, you don't see that column. So it's up to you, like how you wanna, what your sentence or paragraph looks like. The other way to display, to render code, say you have code example, you have some Python code, you wanna give examples in your documentation. Instead of the 2 columns, you'll do ... again, space, and code. And then what do you call this? Like the language is optional. You don't need to do that, but I think it will help. It will help the renderer to decide how to color your code. So for example, if I now have an actual Python code, let's delete that in Sphinx. This will be rendered with syntax highlighting. So, so this is right now the PyCharm preview. I will turn it off and I will build my documentation and open the actual HTML file. Change log. I believe, like, you'll notice that now it picks, there is some form of syntax highlighting. It's not just a plain text block anymore. So that's one way. That's another way to do like code blocks if you need it in your documentation. Okay. The next is, let's do lists. I believe it's the same as Markdown. Like you can do asterisks like that. List item 1. So apple, type apple, banana, type. Wait, why does it need to show up? Oh, because that's the index that I did not auto generate here. Okay, that's the list items. And if you need to say, like, if your list item goes really long, you can continue in the next line, just indent it and put it in the same level as the previous list item. For example, here you can see how it's still in the rendered version. I have a really long bullet item text and it gets rendered inside that bullet. So then if I have the third one is blueberry, now it goes to the next line. And you can do numbered list as well. Apple, banana, blueberry, something like that. There's a way to auto number your list items instead of hard coding things like this. You can do like pound and a dot, and like apple, banana, blueberry. So you can see in the rendered version, it automatically continues the numbers. Okay, what else did I wanted to show? I have shown the comments. So this is a comment. Somebody has asked that. I think it's important. You definitely need that. And the trick is that I missed this. I thought this looks like, you know, the where we declare that link. So in my earlier journey into documentation, I thought this going to be, I did not recognize this is a comment. So I think that's a good question. There's another neat feature that I've used. I like to use, they call it admonitions, and basically you can do something like this, note. So 2 dots, a space, and a note, and two columns, and then you can put some text here like, please see the documentation, or you'll notice that it appears as a call out box that gives the readers, it gives readers some notice, like it takes their attention. So if you have important information that you really want them to not miss, maybe you want to use the note, something like this. And this is how it looks like in the bare restructured text without a theme or anything. I believe Sphinx. Let's build it now in Sphinx. In Sphinx, it looks a little nicer. So Sphinx knows how to style it differently. And you can actually do other ways of, I think there are other styling. So you can do attention. It looks like that red button, danger. That's how it looks like. How does it get rendered? So that's how a danger box looks like. Any questions so far about this? No? Okay, let's continue. Just showing, and you're free to try this out on your own. I will give you all time to experiment. Maybe I'll go through everything in this page, and then I'll give you all time to experiment before we go to the next page. Table is another feature that I really like that was missing in Markdown. So you can render tables multiple ways. I realize it's not like the Zen of Python where there should only be one way to do things. There are multiple ways. This is one of the way to render table, and the actual code is in my documentation. You can simply copy it. Let's see. So that's how the table looks like. The other way, so this is basically you need to define the column headings, each row, and you need to style the headings separately like that. So this, if you need to add a third row, just add one more row in the bottom like that. So that's the simple table, they call it. There is another way to render a table that is much more complicated. This is called the grid table. The output is the same. It's just we have used this style in official Python documentation, especially in the dev guide as well. It was painful typing all of this dash when you change the column size, but it's more, if you have more complicated data to be rendered, we usually end up using this complex grid table. Another even more simpler way to do this is by using CSV table format. I will show it here. So you notice it looks exactly the same. You get table, columns, rows, except you don't need to draw those underscores or dashes. You'll write things in comma separated format. So the syntax for this is that you have the CSV table followed with the 2 columns. You specify the headers, comma separated, and then any new rows you need, you'll add it in the bottom like that. I have just discovered the CSV table quite recently because somehow in Python documentation, they were not using this, but it exists.
Seems really nice.
Yeah, and I feel like this is easier to, if you want to write a script or to render your table, like it's easier. I wasn't sure if they are able to load a CSV file. I'm planning to look into that. It might be possible, maybe there's extension to it, but I really think you all should know about the CSV table.
Just looks easier to put together that way, to build the table.
It's easier, right? Instead of like drawing the dashes. I can, I'm not gonna go, but I can show you later in Python documentation where we have to draw those lots of dashes. It's hard. The next thing that I will show is, we've seen it before, which is the table of contents. Oh, the table of contents within the page. So if I have multiple sections here, paragraph 1 and paragraph 2, or an inner section, say section 2.1. So there's a lot of headings in this documentation. I can add like a table of contents by doing ... contents at the top of the page, and it will automatically be generated. Like you'll notice in the output, it renders a table of content within that page. So I found this super useful, and I feel like this is one of the things that was missing in Markdown. Although only recently on GitHub, if you have a Markdown documentation, GitHub can automatically render the table of contents. This is very new, but if you have your documentation in reStructuredText in GitHub, GitHub is able to render this if you add the ... contents. So I use it a lot. I find it super useful.
Keys on the equal signs, I guess. I mean, what's it deciding to put there?
Which one?
I see what you're, I think it's just the fact that you're putting par1 with the equals underneath is how it knows what to label the table of contents. Yeah, okay.
It picks up the section titles. So everything that you decide as everything under with the underlines, basically. That's a great question. Yeah. The next feature is the image. So basically, so if you're already familiar with this, it looks pretty similar. Just say image. So ... image with the 2 columns in the end, and then the path to image. I don't even have any image, but you can even refer to a URL. Let me quickly find an image.
I'm curious what the error is if you don't put one there on the rendering.
It doesn't. Let's do it. I've never tried it. Let's do. It complains that argument is required. So I called the image function without passing the path. So it complains. See, this is my GitHub avatar. And so that's the path to the image in URL. It gets rendered like that. So put
Very
a
nice.
space. Yeah, I think that's the end of this section. Let's see, do folks want time to play around with this, or should I continue to the next stage?
I have one quick question.
Uh-huh.
Well, let people answer that if what they want. Mike, just the rendering is a function of PyCharm, right? Is that PyCharm it's automatically rendering what you're doing?
Yes, this is
okay.
a PyCharm. So this section is PyCharm. PyCharm, I think I need to install something as well, like it wasn't built in. So if you want it in your HTML, you need to actually build it, and that's why.
Right.
So,
yeah. I've been building on the side, and I figured that's what it was.
Yeah, it's definitely confusing because you see, I normally would try to just use the HTML because this is the output you will see in your browser. But now that is complicated with screen sharing. So this is the HTML. This is what people will see when they read your documentation. Hopefully you put your own photo, not mine. But yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, let's some folks said let's keep going. I think you will have time to continue. Let's keep going. The next, so far what I've shown you, the fact that it can be rendered immediately by the PyCharm preview, it's built in restructured text. You do not need Sphinx to do all of these markups. So the next is I want to show things that you need Sphinx for. Okay, there's a question about if there's a way to render SVGs. I don't know yet. I haven't had to use it. I assume there will be a way to do that. I have seen people drawing charts on Sphinx. So I don't know. I'm sure there is a way to do that. You might have to do some Google search. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so one of the nice features that I like out of Sphinx is being able to do cross-referencing. As a reminder. So now the sections I'm going through in my documentation is talking about Sphinx roles, and I'm going with the cross-referencing section now. Let's do this. Okay, so for example, if I wanna say within my, let's do from the tutorial. Say within my tutorial, I wanna say, go check out the changelog, like wanna reference another file. I can do that. I don't have to hard code the path to changelog. Within changelog, let's say I need to add something called like a bookmark. It's called a target basically. So I could say dot underscore, let's say changelog section 1, and just one column. Now in another page of my tutorial of my documentation, saying my changelog, I want to say, go check out the changelog. I would say ref that section, like ref and the bookmark. So basically this bookmark. Now if I do rebuild the documentation and view the tutorial, it automatically detects that I'm referring to that's the section title in changelog. Notice there's a *1, and if I click that, it takes me to that particular section. We use this a lot in C Python documentation. Like we're not gonna bother typing out page by hand. Like we created all these bookmarks. So it's two parts. You create a target, and then in the page where you want a reference to, just do ref and ticks like that. And even if you move this to somewhere else, say to another section, say you can move the bookmark, it will be rendered accordingly. So in the next time I render tutorial browser, oops, it's not building correctly. I'm not sure. It's meant to go to the part 2 now. Actually, it does take me to paragraph 2, but somehow it did not change the title. That's a Sphinx problem. So that's one way for you to do cross-referencing, but this is cross-referencing to other section, like other titles, like specific parts of the documentation. If you just want to point people to different page, you can do that by doing doc instead of the ref. So doc, in this case, I'm going to change log, like see the change log like that. When this gets rendered, it will take me to the change log, like the whole page instead of to the specific section. Let's do that. How do I refresh this? Okay, it's refreshed. Now it takes me to the top of the page instead of the specific section. So this is one of the features I like the most. It saves time. Someone asked about, can I show the referencing part? Was that clear when I showed how it gets built in the HTML? Okay, someone's asking if I can show the changelog file. Can I do it during the break? Just want to try to keep going.
Okay, that would be
but I
great.
can definitely copy it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
And also we're almost at the end of this particular section though. So we can do that after. Okay. I showed the doc downloadable files. Sometimes maybe you want to point people to download a certain script within your documentation. You can do, let me close this. You can do stuff like this. Say download. So the syntax is download, like, and it looks like a link, basically, the make file. And so this part looks just like the URL that I've shown earlier, and this will be the path to the file that you download. For example, the make.batch file. Like that. So if I rebuild it, what did I do? Oh, sorry. Actually, without the underscore. And I made a typo. Download. I do. Okay, the file. Okay, made up file. It should be. Let's do index RST. I got the path wrong, but this should be correct. Oh, it should like this. Okay, I got it. It needs the right path. And I did not get it right. Open in browser. I should go to the changelog page and download. Where did I? So, okay, this is the download text that I wrote in the restructured text, and it shows here like download. Well, this is not an actual makefile, but you see how it's rendered differently, and you can click on it to download it. So, yeah, so that's the end of this section, and let's see. I think we have 5 minutes before the next section. Perhaps I'll open this for questions for now, or if you all just wanna try it out and experiment. I'm planning to take a break before we go to the next section. And I can share my changelog RST file now. It's a mess. How should I share this? Your computer. Let's see. You know what? Okay, if you don't mind a photo of me there, it's still pointing to my GitHub avatar. So, but I will share this so you can like copy paste and try it. Where is my okay? Yeah. Yeah, if anybody has questions, otherwise we can take a break until the top of the hour. I'll be here. And if you just want to experiment and try this, build your own documentation, write some text, that's totally fine. And just let me know if you have any trouble.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mhm.
All right, it's the top of the hour. I saw a question from Bill about problem with VS Code add-in for reStructuredText. I'm using PyCharm, so I don't know how to help. I'm sorry. Perhaps somebody else can.
That's okay, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to the next steps. The next section is, and we're really almost done. So we'll probably have some time for even more questions. So the next section is the Sphinx extensions. So Sphinx has a lot of features, and I think one of the things people wanted to do is automatically generating their, say, reference documentation. And you can do that with Sphinx. But first, you actually have to write doc strings in your Python code. And by default, Sphinx can recognize the restructured text format in your documentation. There was a question about what if you want to use other style of, doc strings, not like Google style or something else. I have posted the link to the extension that you have to enable a different kind of extension. But what I'm going to do right now is just to show the basic one, the built-in one, which is the restructured text doc strings. First, we need to enable, let me share my screen before I forgot. Okay, am I sharing the right screen? Yeah, okay. So first we need to enable the extension in the conf.py that was auto-generated in the beginning. Oh, by the way, I needed to fix. In the beginning of this tutorial, we had problem with using the exclude patterns. Actually, if you scroll down to line 39 or so, when we did Sphinx quick start, it already included the exclude patterns line there. You simply need to add the path to your virtual environment there instead of creating a new one. So this is basically, it was overridden in the bottom. But let's enable the extensions. You will find in the conf.py, you will find the extensions already pre-filled with empty list. This is basically a Python code, right? .py. We will add Sphinx ext autodoc. So this is basically a built-in with Sphinx. You don't need to install anything else. You just need to enable it basically by adding it to the extensions list. Next, Sphinx need to know the path to your code, the code that you want to automate the documentation. In this case, in this example, I already have a code project. That's my aquarium. I have init file. I have fish class, and I have doc strings there. Some of these I didn't write doc strings yet, but I have a whole bunch of different classes. So I wanna document this. Since this is, so I just need to add the path to that module. So basically I would go to the top. There's already something here that was commented out, just uncommented. And what I needed to do is, wasn't sure if I needed a /aquarium. I believe this is all I needed. Just the directory above my docs directory, because that's how it's structured. You may need to experiment with how your documentation is set up yourself. Now I need the page where all the reference documentation will be rendered. So I'm creating, say, reference index.rst. it's in the same level as my index, as my tutorial. Don't forget to add that. So I would say, well, indentation, reference index. So that's the file name. And don't forget with the title, it needs at least one title, reference index. Now, so there's a little bit of setup, but now that I have it all set up, I can add this code here, like other module, and my module name is my aquarium. I believe that's the only magic thing that I needed to do. Now, when I build HTML, oh, I broke something in tutorial. Okay, I'm going to ignore this because I have done it before. Just gonna focus on the reference index. It got built, and let's see how it looks like. Browser. Did it refresh? Built-in preview. You will see the reference index, but it's empty. What did I miss? I missed something. Let me try it in my side browser here. Let's see, I must is it like oops. Forgot how this works myself. Sorry. I have a sample that was already working. I'm trying to pull it up right now. Somebody get, yeah, you need to pass in the right path, and that might be my issue as well. Just 1 second. So I had it like this, and maybe I also missed the path. I must have not imported the right path myself. here.
You think you might have to change your screen application? Not sure if we're seeing the right My Aquarium project.
Okay, just 1 second. Let me. I want to make sure this is the right one. Let me try to stop share and reshare. Okay, this is a different. This is the documentation which I tried earlier that works. So I'm going to do it now. If not, I'm totally sorry. I will fix the example, but let's go to the next. I'll just give this one last try and then we'll go to the next section. I try this. Okay. CD docs HTML and actually I'm going to rebuild the whole thing. And am I looking at the right one? This does not look right.
You might have to do a hard refresh because if I wonder if it's cached because it's the same file name index.html.
Right, I'm trying to open it in the regular browser instead of here. Opening browser. Yeah, it's okay. I think something's wrong with my PyCharm now. I will. I'm not sure how to make it right now. So I'm sorry. I will figure out a way. Either I'll send you another recording through the document, through the tutorial, or I don't want to spend too much time debugging this right now. I'm really sorry, but let's go to the next section.
Just one question. What was exactly what didn't work? What did you want to show?
It doesn't seem like my reference documentation is being built, and I'm guessing if PyCharm is caching it or something, but you should see.
So it would have taken the module and taken your document, whatever doc strings you had in there, and documented that. That was the idea, right?
Yeah. And I saw the example of somebody who said it works, and that's what I had too. But I'm not seeing it in my own output here. It should. You will need, how it works is you will need to actually add doc strings later. It will not render anything that doesn't have doc strings. So
It's good to know that functionality is available. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, let's go to the next extension. What is the next extension? Inter-Sphinx mapping. Okay, that's also another useful feature that I have found I need it. You can reference other Sphinx projects out there. For example, if you wanna within your documentation, you wanna reference to CPython documentation, you can do that. So you don't have to actually hard code things there. So you will find in conf.py, it should already have a Inter-Sphinx, no? If not, we have to add this in the bottom.
Sorry to interrupt again, Mariatta.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I realized I shared the wrong thing again. This is a challenge with with remote teaching. What do you see?
HTML theme, Alabaster.
Do you see the text that says Inter-Sphinx? Okay, yes, that's what I wanted to show. So in conf.py, you will need to add something like Inter-Sphinx mapping, which is a dictionary. You need to find the path, like their documentation, the URL to their documentation. So I've shown how a couple examples, if you want to reference Python documentation or a Sphinx documentation. This is the example dictionary. So Python and a tuple path to it. So if you have another documentation you want to add, say, I don't know, AI or HTTP or something, you will point to their documentation here, but we don't need to do that. Now, once you have this within your documentation, since this is broken, I'm going to delete that. So I'm going to show something else instead. Now within the documentation, I can say things like async IO module. This will be rendered with a link to CPython async IO module. I can say stuff like class Boolean. This will be rendered. Let's do the rendering. Open in browser. I hope it refresh. Like you see how it shows with but so I think PyCharm is messing up, but this meant to be rendered to as a link, as a URL to async IO documentation in docspython.org. But this is the syntax to do that. So
could you just show that dictionary again, the mapping dictionary?
Yes. And you will see the same. I have copied this into this section of my tutorial. You can see it there. In fact,
okay.
Let me actually just share that page now, because this is the actual working example. Okay. You see this page, right? The tutorial that I wrote.
Yeah.
I've shown how you do this, and okay, let's see. Oh, I did not show how it gets rendered because I wanted to show it live. But if you build the documentation, it was supposed to provide a link externally to CPython documentation if you write out these things. And the same thing with Sphinx, though, you need to specify like a namespace to it by saying Sphinx colon and then the target. You notice that in the Python documentation, we did not have to say like Python colon async IO, like it's just built in, it's just recognized it without doing additional thing. But if you have in your Sphinx setting, you have you say you have Sphinx or you have AIO HTTP, you will need to put in the name like AIO HTTP colon and their documentation. So that's that. The next section is link check. So this is within Sphinx functionality. So far, I've shown you how to build the documentation using make HTML, which is like the easiest way to generate the Sphinx documentation. There are actually many options. If you do Sphinx build like this command here, Sphinx build /b link check instead of the make HTML, during the build process, Sphinx will go through any URLs in your documentation and it will tell you whether the link is broken or not. So I found it useful. Actually, I might be able to show you how it looks like. We have started doing that in the dev guide. I have an example of where we try to add the broken links. So this is where we try to fix broken links there. Okay, here you go. We can see the build status log. It executes the link check somewhere here at some point or not. I clicked the wrong thing, I think. Here, this one, this is the link check. If we see the log, it will show you like this, it will try to fetch the URLs in your documentation and it will tell you what's broken. So if you want to keep your documentation up to date, you might want to have this as part of your CI. The text is kind of small, like to see which links need updating. So I find it useful. I do recommend it. You enable it. Maybe you wanna, for now in the dev guide, we let it allow to fail because we haven't figured out how to fix some of the broken links. Like some of the pages was just gone. Somebody took it down. We don't know how to replace it. So another extension you can try using is the documentation coverage. This is I think this is related to the auto module thing where it can detect within your code base which parts do not have documentation or not doc strings at all. So I found it useful. That's the command to execute the coverage. The ones I've shared so far are built-in extensions. You do not need to install anything else. You simply need to just add them to the list of extensions. But there are other useful extensions as well. I have tried to share with you the Sphinx auto build. I found this useful if I'm actually writing documentation. I don't like to use PyCharm. As you can see, it was wonky. I go to my terminal and I run my HTML, but I started using auto build that it automatically refresh the browser with the new content. I like it better than the PyCharm one. Sorry, PyCharm. I do like your product, but for this part, I rely on something else. The Sphinx copy button is also something new I just recently discovered. So this is what enabled this feature in my documentation that shows that you can click and copy. This was not part of the other theme. I had to install it, Sphinx copy button. I think readers of your documentation will find it useful because they could just copy and use it. So it's a separate package. You need to install it and add it to the extension, and then you'll build your documentation that way. Another extension that you can, another kind of customization for your documentation is themes. The default one, as you've seen, the default one that comes with Sphinx, if you do not make any changes, is the Alabaster theme. For this tutorial, I use a different theme. It's not Alabaster. I use the Furrow theme. It looks somewhat different, just different feel. I just like how this looks like. So you can go through the Sphinx themes gallery here and see like which style do you like, and I believe each of these themes will tell you how to install it. So you'll have to choose one that you like the most. Okay, it looks like I don't have enough time to really demo this. There was a question about what files you need to commit to Git. Basically, everything. You need the conf.py, you need all the make file that was auto-generated, all of your RST files, anything if you have custom static files, static JS files, or custom templates that you have created, you need to commit those as well. One trick here is this. If you, I'll show my PyCharm again. I should have mentioned this earlier. Let me see if this is the right one. Oh, what did I share? No, that's not the right one. I want to say that within PyCharm in the conf.py, there was one of the settings in the file is about the static or templates path. If your templates path is empty, you may need to comment out those line in the conf.py for it to be. You may need to just like add pound in front of the line to make it built correctly. Let me share my browser again. Okay, so yeah, basically the underscore build is the one you do not need to commit, because that will be regenerated when you run make HTML or when you run the Sphinx build command. I guess I don't have time to show how to host documentation in Read the Docs. However, they do have excellent demo. They have excellent documentation. I host all my documentation in Read the Docs whenever I can. Go there and click it. If you are hosting it yourself, what you want to serve is everything under the underscore build /HTML. For example, in my company, we don't use Read the Docs. We're hosting documentation internally. What we do is, as part of the CI, after we run the test and we deploy everything, we would copy the output of the underscore build /HTML, like all the files, all the HTML, all the assets, copy the whole thing to our wherever we host documentation, and that's the path that we share to the readers. So they will, once they reach that like docs.company.com, they will see only the HTML. They do not need to be concerned with the RST or everything. And I tried to explain that here, and somebody also has written how to host your documentation on GitHub pages. I haven't tried it myself personally, so I found maybe you can try it if that's something you wanted to do as well. So that's all I got, and I'm sorry for some of the issues. I'll probably try to re-record how the other module works and share it with you all. I will also at PyCon. I guess I was told there's a launch just for the tutorials in the Hubilo platform. Feel free to join. I'll be there. Or you can just email me. You got my email address. If you still have trouble, I'll be happy to help. I'm also on Twitter. You can follow me and DM me on Twitter. Yeah, that's all I got. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you. You know, on the inner Sphinx, when I did it, only the last one worked. The one for network IO. So I don't know why, but that one worked and the other 3 did not. So just, it might help you debug it.
Yeah, I swear I tried that whole thing, but maybe I messed up somewhere else.
I went through it, and the first 3 did not link up, but the last one did. So I don't know what it is about it, but anyway, thank you very much.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
You documented this really well. I just need to go through it a little more slowly myself, and I think I'll have it.
Yeah, and that's the whole point, that I know I will mess up during this tutorial. That's why I wrote it up.
This is a hard way to teach something like this.
Indeed, I think I would do better if I didn't have to like keep sharing a different screen.
All these little screens. Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thank you.